My daughter-in-law was promoted. She took the whole family out to a fancy New York City restaurant to celebrate, but she didn't invite me. Hours later, I got her message. Mother-in-law, remember to warm up the leftovers from the fridge. Don't waste them. I simply replied, okay. Then I quietly packed my bags and left. That night, when they returned, laughing and tipsy from their drinks, they opened the door, and what they saw inside left them completely frozen. It was 9:30 in the evening when my phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. I was sitting there, staring at a bowl of instant soup that I didn't even want to eat. The house smelled of floor cleaner and loneliness. I had spent the entire afternoon cleaning every corner, ironing my son Robert's shirts and folding my grandchildren's clothes. My hands still smelled of bleach. I picked up the phone, thinking maybe it was my son saying they were on their way back, that there was a place for me at that table where they were celebrating. But no, it was a message from Valerie, my daughter-in-law. Mother-in-law, remember to warm up the leftovers from the fridge. Don't waste them. I read those words once, twice, 3 times. I felt something inside my chest quietly shatter, like when a china cup falls to the floor but makes no sound until it's already broken. It wasn't just the message, it was the tone, the hidden mockery in every word. It was knowing that while I ate alone in this house I helped pay for, they were toasting with wine glasses at the Manhattan View, that place where the cheapest entree costs $85. I opened Instagram. I shouldn't have. But I did. There were the photos. My son Robert in his white dress shirt that I myself had ironed that morning. Valerie in a form-fitting red dress, smiling as if she owned the world. My grandchildren, Ethan and Sophia, eating shrimp scampi and making funny faces at the camera. My sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, even Valerie's mother was there. Everyone, except for me. The caption read, "Celebrating my queen's promotion, regional manager at 34. Here's to women who don't stop." 237 likes in 20 minutes. I closed the app. I put the phone back on the counter. I looked at my cooling soup. And then, something strange happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. An icy calm completely washed over me, as if my body knew something my mind was still processing. I got up slowly, I walked to my room, and I opened the closet. Because what they didn't know, what no one at that table full of laughter and toasts imagined, was that I had been preparing for this moment for months. And this time, I wasn't going to heat up their leftovers. This time, I was going to disappear. And when they returned that night, drunk on wine and arrogance, what they would find behind that door would make them tremble. But for you to understand why I made that decision, I need to tell you how I got here. How a 68-year-old woman, who gave everything for her family, ended up being treated like the unpaid housekeeper. And if you want to know how this story ends, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next will change the way you see family relationships forever. Let me take you back 3 years, to the day I lost everything and gave what little I had left, without knowing I was signing my own sentence. 3 years and 4 months ago, I buried my husband, Arthur. Pancreatic cancer. It took him in 6 months, so fast that I barely had time to say goodbye. I was left alone in our house in Queens, that house with the tiled patio where we raised Robert, where we celebrated every birthday, every Christmas. But after the funeral, the silence became unbearable. Every corner screamed his absence. Robert came to visit me 2 weeks later. He had Valerie by the arm and that smile I'd known since he was a kid. That smile he used when he wanted to ask me for something. "Mum," he said, while having coffee in the kitchen, "Valerie and I are looking for a house. We want something bigger for the kids. but the prices are impossible. Valerie nodded, stroking her cup with those perfectly painted coral nails. The down payment for the house we want is $680,000. We've been saving for a year, but we only have half. They didn't need to say more. How much do you need? I asked. Robert looked down. If you sold this house, Mum, you could come live with us. You wouldn't be alone. The kids adore you. And this way, we all win. Valerie smiled. It would be perfect, mother-in-law. You help us with the kids. We take care of you, like a real family. That word, family. I signed the sales papers 3 weeks later. The Queen's house, with its high ceilings and 42 years of memories, sold for $1,200,000. I gave $680,000 to Robert for the down payment. The rest I put into a savings account, thinking it was my security blanket. What I didn't do, and this is what I regret most to this day, was put my name on the deed of the new house. Robert told me there was no need, that the house belonged to all of us, that there was no need to complicate the paperwork. And I, like an idiot, trusted him. The house was in suburban Connecticut, in a gated community with a guard booth, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a 2-car garage. Nice, modern, cold. The first few months were tolerable. I would get up at 5 in the morning. I'd brew the coffee the way Robert likes it, strong with a hint of cinnamon. I'd make breakfast, eggs and bacon, pancakes, French toast. I'd wake up my grandchildren, Ethan, 9 years old, and Sophia, 6. I'd do their hair, pack their lunch, and see them off at the school bus stop. Valerie would rush out at 7:30, always impeccable, in her designer suits and French perfume that cost $240 a bottle. She wouldn't even look at me on her way out. Robert would leave half an hour later. Sometimes he'd give me a kiss on the forehead. Sometimes he'd just say, "Thanks, Mum," without looking at me. And I would stay there, picking up dishes, doing laundry, mopping floors that never seemed clean enough for Valerie. Because every afternoon when she returned, she would inspect. She'd run her finger over the shelves looking for dust. She'd open the fridge and frown if something wasn't in its exact place. She'd check the bathrooms like a health inspector. "Mother-in-law, the mirrors have streaks." "Mother-in-law, Ethan's shirt isn't ironed well." "Mother-in-law, why did you use so much detergent? It's more expensive." Never Beatrice, never Mrs. B, as my friends called me. Just mother-in-law, as if it were a job title, not a name. The children loved me. That was real. Ethan would hug me when he got home from school. Sophia would fall asleep in my lap while I read her stories. But every time Valerie saw us together, her face would harden. One day Sophia said to me, "Grandma, I love you more than Mummy," right in front of Valerie. That night, I heard yelling in their bedroom. "Your mother is spoiling my kids, Robert. She gives them everything they ask for. She indulges them. She fills their heads with nonsense." "She's my mum, Valerie. Leave her alone." "Your mum? Or the maid who doesn't pay rent?" Silence. I waited for Robert to defend me, to say something, anything. But he didn't. And that's when I knew I had crossed an invisible line. I was no longer the helpful mother-in-law. I was the burden they endured. Months passed, and the humiliations became more subtle, but more constant. Valerie would organize family dinners and forget to tell me until the last minute. Her friends would come over, and she'd introduce me as Robert's mum who helps us with the house. Never as part of the family. They stopped including me in photos. At Christmas, when they took the family photo in front of the tree, Valerie asked me to take it. "Mother-in-law, you have a steadier hand." I stood behind the camera while they smiled like a Hallmark card. That photo ended up framed in the living room. I don't appear anywhere in this house. It's as if I were a ghost. And the worst part is that I started to feel that way. Invisible, dispensable, as if my only value were keeping the house running while they lived their perfect lives. But all that accumulated humiliation over 3 years, was nothing compared to what would happen on that night in March, the night I received that message about the leftovers in the fridge, because that night, something inside me woke up, and there was no turning back. It all started that Thursday morning, when Valerie practically floated down the stairs. She was wearing her pearl grey suit, the one she saved for big meetings, and a smile that lit up her whole face. "I did it!" she shouted as Robert came down behind her, tying his tie. "What happened, Mommy?" asked Sophia from the table, her mouth full of pancakes. "I got promoted, my love. Your mummy is the new regional manager of operations, the youngest in the company's history." Robert hugged her and lifted her off the floor. "I knew you would do it. I knew that job was yours." I was standing by the stove, flipping pancakes. "Congratulations, Valerie," I said sincerely, because no matter how tense things were, I didn't wish anyone ill. She barely glanced at me. "Thank you, mother-in-law," and she kept hugging Robert. "We have to celebrate," my son said. "Big time, as my wife deserves." "Shall we go to the Manhattan View?" suggested Valerie, her eyes sparkling. "That restaurant I told you about, the one with the view of Central Park." "Whichever one. Tonight we're sparing no expense." Ethan raised his hand as if he were in class. "Am I going too?" "Of course, champ. The whole family." My heart did a little jump. The whole family. That included me, right? I put the pancakes on the table and wiped my hands on my apron. "What time should I make the reservation for?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Valerie looked at me as if she had just realized I was still there. "Reservation for what?" "The table. For the family dinner." There was an awkward silence. Robert cleared his throat. Valerie exchanged a look with him, one of those glances that speak without words. "Oh no, mother-in-law," Valerie said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's an intimate dinner, you know. Just us, the couple, the kids, my mum, who's coming from Boston. Direct family. Direct family." Those words stabbed me in the chest like glass shards. "I understand," I said, and went back to the stove, even though there was nothing left to flip. "Besides," Valerie continued while spreading butter on her toast, "someone has to stay with the house, right? We can't leave it alone. And you're such a good cook. I'm sure you'll make something delicious for yourself." Robert didn't say anything. My son, the boy I raised, whom I defended from every hardship in life, remained silent, staring at his plate of eggs. They all left at 11 in the morning. Valerie changed clothes 3 times. The children were excited in their best outfits. Robert gave me a quick kiss on the forehead, so automatic he didn't even look me in the eye. "Don't wait up for us, Mom. We're going to be late." And they left. The house fell silent, a silence so heavy it was hard to breathe. I walked through the living room, through the dining room with its glass table that I cleaned every day, through the kitchen where I spent hours preparing meals for which I barely received a thank you. Everything was spotless. Everything was in order, and I was completely alone. I made myself instant soup, the kind that sells in packages of 3 for $2.90. I sat at the kitchen table, not the dining room table. Employees don't eat in the dining room. And that's what I was now, wasn't I? The employee. But the employee who paid $680,000 for the privilege of working for free. At 7 in the evening, I opened Instagram. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed to confirm what I already knew. Maybe I'm a masochist. There they were. The first photo. Valerie, radiant in her red dress, holding a glass of sparkling wine. Thank you all for joining me on this special day. The second photo. My grandchildren with huge plates of fried shrimp and French fries. Ethan had ketchup on his chin. Sophia was making a victory gesture with her fingers. The third photo. The whole table. I counted 9 people. Robert, Valerie, the children, Valerie's mum, her sister, her brother-in-law, and 2 more people I didn't recognize. Friends, probably. 9 people celebrating, laughing, toasting, and me eating instant soup in a kitchen I helped pay for. I looked at the comments. 184 in the first hour. Congratulations, Queen. You deserve it. Here's to successful women. What a beautiful family. No one asked about me. No one noticed someone was missing because I had been invisible for a long time. I closed the app, washed my bowl, dried the counter, and then my phone vibrated. The message from Valerie. Mother-in-law, remember to warm up the leftovers from the fridge. Don't waste them. I read those words, and something inside me died. But at the same time, something else woke up. I opened the refrigerator. There they were. A rotisserie chicken, half-eaten from the day before yesterday, rice from Monday, vegetables I had bought and cooked. Leftovers. That was what they thought I deserved. Their leftovers. Their contempt wrapped in polite words. I closed the fridge. I took a deep breath and typed my response. Okay. 2 letters, nothing more. But in those 2 letters was a decision that had been taking shape in my head for months. Since the first time Valerie treated me like a servant, since Robert stopped defending me, since I understood that I had given my entire life for a family that no longer saw me as a part of it. I went up to my room, opened the closet, and took out the suitcase. Because what they didn't know, what they would never imagine while toasting with wines that cost $320 a bottle, is that I had been preparing for this moment for 6 months. 6 months of saving documents, recording conversations, taking photos, building a case, because it turns out that this invisible mother-in-law, this unpaid servant, this 68-year-old woman they treated like a kitchen rag, had the deed to the house. And she never, ever transferred it to Robert's name. This house was mine. Legally. Completely mine. And they were about to find out the worst possible way. I took the large suitcase from the closet, the one Arthur and I used for our last trip to Miami. It still had the hotel tag stuck on the corner. I put it on the bed and started filling it with my clothes, my shoes, the photographs of my husband that I kept in the nightstand. But before folding the first blouse, I stopped. Because this couldn't just be a tantrum. It couldn't be a dramatic exit that would end with me begging to return in a week. This had to be final, calculated, and fair. I walked to the back of the closet and moved the shoe boxes I never use. Behind them, wrapped in a plastic bag, was my antique sewing box, the one my mother gave me when I got married. I opened it and took out what I had hidden there for months. A hardback notebook with a metal spiral. Everything was in that notebook. Every dollar I invested in this house from the day we moved in. Every receipt. Every proof of payment. 3 years of my life documented in the shaky handwriting of a woman who sensed she would need them someday. I slowly flipped through the pages. August 2022. House down payment. $680,000. September 2022. New refrigerator. $1,890. Washer and dryer. $2,450. October 2022. Living room set. Because Valerie said the one they brought from their apartment was too old. $3,200. November 2022. Repair of the burst pipe, $870. The list went on and on and on. A 55-inch TV for the living room, $2,200. New mattresses for the bedrooms, $3,800. The remodeling of the main bathroom that Valerie urgently wanted, $6,500. And then there were the monthly expenses, because Robert only paid $480 towards the mortgage each month. That was all he could afford after his salary. But the actual mortgage was $1,400 a month. Who paid the other $920? Me. Every month, without fail, for 3 years. Out of my widow's pension of $1,600 a month, I contributed $920 to maintain the house where I lived as a servant. I did the math quickly on the last page of my notebook. Down payment and initial furniture, $84,730. Monthly mortgage contributions, 36 months times $920, $33,120. Repairs, improvements, and extra expenses, $18,950. Total invested, $1,368,000. Almost everything I received from the sale of my Queen's house. Everything Arthur and I built over 42 years of marriage. Invested in a house where I was treated worse than a stranger. But the most important thing, the thing that gave me the real power, was kept at the bottom of the sewing box. I reached in and pulled out a yellowed manila envelope. Inside were the original deeds to the house. I opened them with trembling hands. There it was, in the notary's writing, clear as day. Property located at Circuit Judges, 847, Gated Community, City of Fairfield. Owner, Beatrice Socorro Miller, widow of Torres. My name. Only my name. When we bought the house, the notary explained to me that since I put down the full down payment, the safest thing was to put everything in my name first. Afterward, you can do the transfer whenever you want, Mom, he told me. But this way, you are protected in case something happens. Robert agreed. It's better this way, Mom. Safer for you. And then we never made the transfer. He would ask me about it occasionally during the first few months. We have to go to the notary, Mom, to change the deed. But there was always something more urgent. We always put it off until later, until he stopped asking. And I, consciously or unconsciously, never reminded him. Now I understood why. Some part of me, the part that survived 42 years of marriage, that raised a son alone while Arthur worked 12 hours a day, that part knew I needed protection. That part saved me. I put the deed back in the envelope, but I didn't put it in the suitcase yet. First, I took out my phone and dialed a number I had saved for months. Hello? A young professional voice answered. Mariah, it's your Aunt Beatrice. Aunt? What a surprise. How are you? Mariah was my niece, my younger sister's daughter, a lawyer specializing in family law. 38 years old, 2 children, a recent divorce that made her fierce in court. I need your help, I told her. It's urgent. Can you come over tomorrow morning? There was a pause. Aunt, are you okay? Your voice sounds strange. I'm perfect. For the first time in 3 years, I'm perfect. But I need you to help me with a legal matter. About my house. Your house? I thought you lived with Robert and Valerie. Exactly, that's why I'm calling you. I heard Mariah grab a pen and paper. Tell me everything. I explained the situation in 15 minutes. The down payment, the deed, the payments, the humiliation, the message about the leftovers. When I finished, Mariah whistled softly. Aunt, are you telling me that house is entirely in your name and they don't know it? That's right. And you have proof of everything you've invested. Every receipt, every transfer, everything. Oh my God, I heard Mariah typing on her computer. Aunt, this is legal gold. You have a solid case, extremely solid. What can I do? Anything you want. You can evict them. You can charge them retroactive rent. You can sell the house. Legally, they are your tenants without a contract. They have no right to the property. I felt a smile spread across my face. Not a happy smile. A smile of justice. I'll be at your office tomorrow at 8 in the morning. I'll be waiting for you, Aunt. And bring all the papers, deeds, receipts, proof of payment, everything. I hung up and took a deep breath. Then I dialed another number. Hello? A rough, sleepy male voice answered. Mr. Harrison, it's Beatrice Miller. Sorry to call so late. Mrs. B, what's wrong? Are you all right? Mr. Harrison was my lifelong friend, a notary public for 30 years. He was the one who drew up Arthur's will and processed the deed for this house. I need you to review some documents tomorrow regarding the house in Fairfield. Did something happen? Let's just say I'm going to assert my rights. I heard Mr. Harrison shifting in his chair. Robert and his wife giving you trouble? You could say that. Oh, Mrs. B, I warned you not to transfer the house until you were sure. I know, my friend, and you were right. That's why I'm calling you. I need your advice. Tomorrow at 10 at my office. And bring everything. I'll be there. I hung up and dialed the last number. This was the hardest one. Beatrice? My friend Linda answered. What are you doing awake at this hour? Linda and I had known each other for 40 years. We were neighbours in Queens. Our children grew up together. She was widowed 2 years before me. Linda, is the room you were going to rent out still available? The one upstairs? Yes. Why? Can I move in tomorrow? Silence. What happened, honey? And then, for the first time all night, my voice broke. I can't do it anymore, Linda. I can't keep being invisible in my own house. You're coming tomorrow, Linda said in a firm voice. Any time you get here, I'll be waiting for you. I hung up the phone. And then, yes, I allowed myself to cry. But I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from relief. Because after 3 years of humiliation, I was finally going to get my dignity back. And they, all of them, toasting with expensive wines while I ate leftovers, were about to learn the hardest lesson of their lives. It was 10:15 in the evening. I still had time. According to Instagram stories, they were having dessert. A chocolate tower with raspberries that cost $34 per serving. I calculated they would get home past midnight, maybe 1 in the morning. I had 3 hours, maybe 4 if they kept toasting. I went back to my room and started packing for real. But not all my clothes, just the essentials. What was truly mine. Because I had learned something important in these 3 years. They had gotten used to everything that was mine also being theirs. The knitted blanket my mother gave me, the silver rosary Arthur bought me in New Mexico, the photos from my wedding, the books I had collected for years, my coffee maker that I brought from my Queen's house. Every item I put in the suitcase was a piece of my recovered identity, but there was something more important to pack. I opened my bureau drawer and took out a small digital recorder I had bought downtown 6 months ago. It cost $45 at an electronics store. The best investment I had made in years. Because it turns out that when you become invisible, people talk in front of you as if you don't exist. I connected the recorder to my old laptop and started copying the files to a USB stick. File 1. October 15th, 2024. Valerie's voice talking on the phone with her sister. No, seriously, it's like having a free maid. She gets up early, cooks, cleans, watches the kids. And the best part is I don't have to pay her or give her days off because she's family. Robert feels guilty sometimes, but I tell him she's better off here than alone in a nursing home. Her laugh. I remembered that laugh perfectly. File 2, November 23rd, 2024. A conversation between Valerie and Robert in the bedroom. I was cleaning the hallway. Your mum is getting really annoying, Robert. She wants to have an opinion on everything. How I raise my kids, what I buy at the store. She's my mum, Valerie. She just wants to help. Help is getting in the way. And every time the kids pay more attention to her than to me, my blood boils. Sophia told me the other day that Grandma cooks better than me. Do you realize what that means? Valerie, please. No, Robert. Seriously. When she dies, your dad left a good pension. She's served her purpose. Maybe it's time for her to find her own place. A small apartment or a nice senior community. I can't kick her out. She's my mother. You don't have to kick her out. Just suggest that she would be happier somewhere else. For her own good. Silence from my son. And then, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. My son, my only son, was going to think about it. File 3, January 8th, 2025. Valerie with her friends in the living room, drinking wine while I prepared snacks in the kitchen. You have no idea how lucky I am. My mother-in-law does everything around the house, and I can focus on my career. That's why I got the promotion. Because I don't have to worry about anything domestic. And she doesn't charge you. Charge me? She lives here for free. Of course she doesn't charge. Besides, she sold her house and gave the money to Robert. It's like her way of paying to live with us. More laughter. You're so smart, girl. Take advantage now while she can still work. When she gets really old, you'll figure out what to do. There were 17 files in total. 17 recordings of conversations where they treated me like merchandise, like a useful object they would eventually discard. I copied everything to the USB stick and saved another copy to my email just in case. Then I took something else out of the drawer. My old phone. The one I used before Robert gave me a new one so I could use social media. Mum. What he didn't know is that I never threw away the old one, and that I had taken photos on that phone. Photos of receipts Valerie threw in the trash. Screenshots of her social media where she showed off the house, the furniture, the renovations, always with the hashtag #myhouse, personal achievements. My house, my achievements, never, our house, never, thanks to the family. I copied all the photos to the same USB stick. It was 11:45 in the evening. Instagram showed they were still at the restaurant. Now they were having coffee and brandy. I still had time. I went downstairs silently. The house was dimly lit, only the hallway light on, just the way I always left it so they wouldn't trip. I walked through the living room. I stopped in front of every piece of furniture I had bought. The 3-seater sofa, $3,200. The glass coffee table, $850. The wooden bookshelf where Valerie put her decorative plants, $1,200. But I wasn't going to take any of that. That wasn't my style. I wasn't going to empty the house like a thief in the night. I was only going to take what was indisputably mine. My clothes, my memories, my dignity, and the deed. I went back upstairs and finished closing the suitcase. It weighed quite a bit, but I could handle it. I sat on the edge of the bed and took out a sheet of paper and a pen. I had to leave them something. I couldn't just disappear without a word. But I also wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me beg or explain. I wrote in clear handwriting. Robert, For 3 years, I lived in this house as an invisible servant. I cooked, I cleaned, I watched your children, I paid bills, and I swallowed humiliations in silence. Tonight, while you celebrated Valerie's promotion and told me to warm up leftovers, I made a decision. I am no longer going to be the ghost of this family. You will find documents in your nightstand. Read them carefully. We will see each other soon with lawyers present. I have loved you all my life, but love doesn't mean letting people walk all over me. Mum. I folded the letter and placed it on his pillow, on his side of the bed. Then I took out the manila envelope with the deed. Inside, I placed a yellow sticky note. This house is in my name. It always has been. And I have proof of every dollar I invested in it. $1,368,000 exactly. See you at the notary's office. I left the envelope on Robert's nightstand, clearly visible. I checked my phone. 11:28 in the evening. The last story showed they were asking for the check. It was time to go. I carried the suitcase downstairs carefully. My 68-year-old legs protested, but they held up. I stopped at the front door. I took one last look at this house I helped build. The floors I mopped 1,000 times, the walls I painted when we moved in. The kitchen, where I prepared thousands of meals no one appreciated. I didn't feel sadness, I felt freedom. I locked the door. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't leave the key in the deadbolt on the inside. I took it with me. After all, it was my house. I called an Uber from the corner. The driver, a man in his 50s, helped me with the suitcase. "Long trip, Mum?" he asked as he pulled away. I looked out the window at the house disappearing in the darkness. "No," I replied. "It's a trip back to myself." As the car drove through the empty streets of Fairfield, I imagined the scene to come. Robert, Valerie, the children, all entering the house with their cheeks red from wine and laughter, turning on the lights, calling out for me to tell me about the wonderful dinner they had, and finding silence. Going upstairs, confused, opening my room door, empty, entering their bedroom, seeing the envelope, reading the letter, and understanding everything. I smiled in the darkness of the car. Tonight, they would return laughing to a house they believed was theirs, and I would sleep peacefully for the first time in 3 years. At my friend Linda's house, knowing that I had finally recovered my voice. Tomorrow the legal war would begin, but tonight was just for me. To celebrate that the invisible servant had woken up, and she had claws. I wasn't there when they arrived, but Ethan told me everything 3 days later, when he came looking for me, crying at Linda's house. Let me reconstruct that night as my grandson narrated it to me, with tears rolling down his cheeks. It was 1:23 in the morning when Robert's car entered the gated community. The guard let them pass with a wave. The guard later told me they were laughing loudly, with music blasting. Valerie was leaning on Robert's shoulder. She had had 3 glasses of red wine, 2 of champagne, and a shot of tequila that they had toasted with at the end. Robert wasn't sober either. He had had 2 double whiskeys and several beers. The children were asleep in the back seat. They parked the car. Valerie almost tripped getting out, laughing at her heels. Robert grabbed her waist, playfully, kissing her neck. "Regional manager," he whispered. "My wife, the manager." "And you, husband of the year," she replied, hanging onto his arm. They went up the front steps. Robert fumbled for the keys in his pocket, swaying a little. "Shh," Valerie said, giggling. "Don't wake up your mum." "Let her sleep," Robert replied. "She deserves it after watching the house all night." They opened the door. Everything was dark. Only the upstairs hallway light was on, as I always left it so they wouldn't stumble. "Mum?" Robert called out as he entered. His voice sounded thick. Silence. Valerie turned on the living room light, and then they saw it. The living room was different, not empty, but different. The oriental rug I had brought from my Queen's house was missing, the one my mother bought on a trip to California 50 years ago. The embroidered cushions from the sofa were gone, the ones I had spent months embroidering myself. The paintings from the walls were gone. My paintings, landscapes of Vermont that Arthur gave me for our anniversaries. Valerie frowned. "Your mum moved things." Robert walked toward the kitchen. He turned on the light. The coffee maker was gone. The ceramic mugs I collected, gone too. The apron that always hung on the hook next to the fridge had disappeared. "Mom!" he called out louder. "Where are you?" They went upstairs. Ethan told me that's when the alcohol started to evaporate. My door was slightly ajar. Robert pushed it open. He turned on the light. The bed was made. Perfectly made. Just the way I always left it. But empty. The closet was open. Empty of my clothes. Only the hangers remained. The nightstand was bare. No books, no glasses, no rosary. As if I had never existed in that room. "What the hell?" Valerie muttered behind him. Robert ran to the bathroom. My toothbrush was gone. My face cream, my comb, my cheap rose perfume. All gone. He returned to the room, and that's when he saw it. On his bed, on his pillow, a folded letter. He grabbed it with trembling hands. He unfolded it. Valerie read over his shoulder. Ethan told me that his father's face changed as he read, from confusion to disbelief, from disbelief to horror. "What does it say?" Valerie asked. "She left? Your mum left." But Robert didn't answer. He had seen the manila envelope on his nightstand. He opened it with clumsy fingers. He pulled out the deed to the house, and he read the name written there in official notary script. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." "What is it?" Valerie snatched the papers away. Her eyes scanned the document, once, twice, and then she turned pale. This can't be real." "The house is in her name," Robert said in a hollow voice. "The whole house. It was always in her name. But you paid the down payment." "You told me that." "She paid the down payment." Robert slumped onto the bed. "She sold her Queen's house, $680,000. I had nothing. It all came from her." Valerie grabbed the yellow sticky note attached to the deed. $1,368,000 exactly. 1,300,000? Valerie staggered. "Are you telling me your mother invested over $1 million in this house?" "And we never did the transfer." "My God, Valerie. We never transferred the property." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan told me he woke up to the screaming. He went downstairs, rubbing his eyes, and found his parents in the living room arguing. "It's her fault," his mother was screaming. His father had his head in his hands. "This can't be happening." Valerie paced like a caged animal. 3 years we lived here. 3 years. This is my house." "It's her house," Robert said in a dead voice. "Legally, it was always her house." "Then you demand that she give it to you. She's your mother. She has an obligation to—" "Obligation?" Robert looked up. His eyes were red, like the obligation we had to treat her with respect, to not exclude her from dinner tonight. Valerie was speechless. "We left her alone," Robert continued, and his voice broke. "In her own house. We left her eating leftovers while we spent $300 on wine. Robert? You sent her that message, that cursed message about warming up the leftovers in the fridge. Valerie opened her mouth. She closed it. She turned even paler. I didn't mean anything bad by it. It was just… What? A joke? Was humiliating her funny to you? For the first time in 3 years, my son defended my honor. But it was too late. Ethan was crying on the stairs, listening to everything. Sophia woke up and started calling for her grandma. Where is Grandma? I want my grandma. Robert dialed my number. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times. I had silenced his contact. He sent messages. Mum, please answer. Mum, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Mum, we can fix this, please. Mum, please don't do this. None received a reply. Because at that moment, I was at Linda's house, drinking chamomile tea with honey, wrapped in a clean blanket that smelled of fabric softener, sleeping the deepest, most peaceful sleep I had had in 3 years. Valerie tried one last tactic that night. Let's call a lawyer tomorrow. Surely we can challenge that deed. We've been living here for 3 years. That gives us rights, possession in good faith, or something like that. Robert looked at her with a mixture of disgust and disappointment. You still don't get it. She has everything documented. Every dollar, every receipt. And worse yet. He ran his hands over his face. She's right. We treated her like trash. I let you treat her like trash. He got up and walked toward the children's room. Ethan told me his dad hugged him that night and cried. He cried like he hadn't seen him cry since Grandpa Arthur died. I ruined everything, he told his 9-year-old son. I lost Grandma because I was stupid. That night, none of them slept in the house they thought was theirs. The house that was always mine. And while they walked through the rooms empty of my things, trying to understand how everything fell apart in a single night, I slept in peace. Because sometimes silence is the most powerful scream. And sometimes disappearing is the only way for them to finally see you. I woke up at 7 in the morning at Linda's house. Natural light streamed through the window. Birds were singing outside. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted up from the kitchen. It had been 3 years since I woke up without a knot in my stomach. I stretched in bed. No one was waiting downstairs to demand breakfast. No one would check if I had cleaned the bathroom properly. No one would give me orders disguised as suggestions. I was free. My phone had 32 notifications, 23 missed calls from Robert, 15 WhatsApp messages, 4 from Valerie, 2 from unknown numbers that were probably nosy relatives who had already heard about the scandal. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened Facebook. That social network I hardly ever used, filled with old contacts, book club friends, Queen's neighbors, distant cousins, high school classmates I found years ago. 437 friends who barely saw my posts because I never posted anything. Until today. I typed with trembling fingers. After 3 years of taking care of a family that made me invisible, I learned that self-love is not selfishness. It is survival. I hit post and closed the application. I went down to breakfast. Linda was waiting for me with green enchiladas, refried beans, and Mexican coffee with cinnamon. My favorite breakfast. How did you sleep? She asked, pouring me orange juice. Like I haven't slept in years. And what happens now? Now, I said, cutting a piece of enchilada, comes the legal part. At 8 o'clock sharp, I was in Mariah's office. My niece greeted me with a big hug and a cup of coffee. Aunt, you're a legend. I didn't sleep last night thinking about your case. Did you bring everything? I took the manila envelope with the deed, the notebook with the receipts, the USB stick with the recording things, and the photos from the old phone out of my purse. Mariah spread everything out on her desk like a detective building a case. "This is it, Aunt. This is perfect. Your documentation is impeccable." She reviewed every paper with shining eyes, deed in your name, proof of payment, bank transfers, even recordings. She plugged the USB stick into her computer and listened to a few snippets of the recordings. Her expression changed from professional to indignant. Like having a free maid. When the old lady dies, she's served her purpose. Mariah clenched her fists. "Aunt, with this we can do whatever you want. Immediate eviction, collection of back rent, compensation for emotional distress. Tell me what you need and we'll do it." "I need," I said slowly, "for them to understand what they lost, for them to feel what I felt, and for them to learn that love is not free when you confuse it with servitude." Mariah nodded. "Then we're going to teach them a lesson they won't forget." We spent 3 hours developing the strategy: lawyer letters, summonses, property appraisals, calculations of back rent based on the commercial value of the area. At 11 in the morning, Mariah sent the first official document, a legal summons. Ms. Beatrice Socorro Miller, legal owner of the residence located at Circuit Judges 847 Fairfield, requires the presence of Mr. Robert Miller and Ms. Valerie Ruiz at the offices of Notary Public Harrison on Monday, March 18th at 10 a.m. to resolve matters of property and occupancy. Attendance is mandatory. Please present official identification. The email was sent at 11:47 a.m. Meanwhile, my phone kept vibrating. Finally, at noon, I checked the messages. From Robert. "Mom, please, we need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't know the house was in your name. It was never my intention to disrespect you. The kids are asking for you. Ethan is crying. Sophia doesn't understand what happened. Mum, you're my mum. We can't end like this." From Valerie. "Mother-in-law, I think this is all getting out of proportion. If the message last night bothered you, I apologize. It was a misunderstanding. Robert is very upset. The kids too. Please reconsider. Can't we talk like civilized adults?" I noticed the change in tone, from bossy mother-in-law to pleading mother-in-law, but I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Facebook. My post had 243 reactions, 189 comments. I started reading. "Beatrice, I didn't know you were going through this. I always saw you as such a strong woman. I'm glad you found your voice." Rose, my neighbor from Queens. "Friend, I've been living with my son and his wife for 2 years. I relate to this so much it made me cry. Thank you for sharing." Patricia, from the book club. "My mum went through something similar. She ended up in the hospital from stress. I wish she had your courage." A cousin I hadn't seen in years. "This touched my soul. All older women deserve respect, not crumbs." Guadalupe, a childhood friend. And so they continued. Comment after comment from women sharing their own stories, women who lived with their children, being treated as unpaid caretakers, women who had lost their homes, their savings, their dignity. My small post had become a refuge for silenced voices. At 3 in the afternoon, my sister called. "Beatrice, what is going on? Robert called me crying. He says you left the house." "I left my house," I corrected, "where I was living as a domestic worker." "But he's your son. It's family." "Family doesn't humiliate, Consuelo. Family doesn't make you feel invisible. Family doesn't send you mocking messages about warming up leftovers while they celebrate without you." Silence on the other end. "They did that." I told her everything. every detail of the last 3 years. When I finished, my sister was crying. "I'm sorry," she said. "I thought you were fine there. I thought it was a good arrangement." Everyone thought that, because I smiled and didn't complain. But smiling doesn't mean being happy. At 5 in the afternoon, my brother-in-law, Consuelo's husband, called Robert. He didn't answer. He left him a message that Robert later showed me. "Nephew, you made a serious mistake. Your mother is a woman of honor, and you treated her like a kitchen rag. Now face the consequences and learn your lesson." The cracks were starting to show. The family, who always assumed the children were right, began to question. At 7 in the evening, Linda's phone rang. It was the next-door neighbor from my old house in Fairfield. "Mrs. B, I just wanted to tell you that everyone in the community knows what happened, and you are completely right. I saw you every day taking out the trash, washing their car, grocery shopping, and they didn't even say thank you." "How did they find out?" The lady laughed. "Valerie went out this afternoon to buy something at the store. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and when Mrs. Carter asked her what was wrong, she exploded. She blamed you for everything, that you were ungrateful, that you left them homeless, that you were being selfish." I felt my blood boil. "And what did the neighbors say?" "Mrs. Carter told her that you were the owner of the house and had every right to leave whenever you wanted, that she would have done the same thing, and the other ladies said worse things." Valerie ran back to the house. For the first time in 3 years, the neighbors who silently witnessed my suffering raised their voices. That night, before going to sleep, I checked Facebook again. My post had 420 reactions, 352 comments, and something else. 23 women had sent me private messages telling me their stories. Stories of mistreated mothers-in-law, forgotten mothers, exploited grandmothers. "Beatrice," one wrote, "thank you for speaking up. You gave me the courage to leave my daughter's house. I'm looking for an apartment tomorrow." Another said, "I've been watching my grandchildren for free for 5 years while my daughter-in-law goes out and has fun. After reading your story, tomorrow I'm telling her she can't keep abusing me." My story, my pain, my broken silence was giving strength to other women to reclaim their voices. And that, more than any house or deed or money, filled my heart. Because it turns out my revenge wasn't just personal, it was collective. Robert texted me at 11 at night. "Mum, we received the lawyer's summons. Please don't do this. We're family." For the first time in 48 hours, I replied, "Family is what you build with respect, son, not with blood and obligations. I'll see you at the notary's office on Monday." And I turned off the phone because the storm was just beginning. And I, for the first time in years, was the lightning. The Sunday was the longest day of my life. Robert showed up at Linda's house at 9 in the morning. He rang the doorbell insistently until my friend opened the door. "You can't see her," Linda said firmly, blocking the entrance. "She's my mother, ma'am, please." She is a woman who is finally resting after 3 years of exploitation, and I am not going to let you disturb her. But I heard the voices from upstairs. I walked downstairs slowly. Robert looked terrible. Deep, dark circles, unshaven beard, the same wrinkled shirt from Friday. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. "Mom!" His voice broke when he saw me. "Robert, please, we need to talk." Linda looked at me. I nodded. "It's okay, let him in." We sat in Linda's small living room. She stayed close, like a silent guardian. Robert didn't know where to start. He ran his hands through his hair. He bit his lip. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't know the house was in your name." "I know. Why didn't you ever tell me?" That question. That cursed question. I told you, Robert. For the first 6 months, I reminded you every 2 weeks. Son, we have to go to the notary to make the transfer. Do you remember what you answered? He looked down. Later, Mum. We're very busy with the move right now. Next week, Mum. There's no rush, Mum. We're family after all. And then you stopped answering. And I stopped asking. Because a part of me, the wise part that survived 42 years of marriage, knew I would need that protection. Protection? From me? From your own son? From the situation, I corrected. From becoming what I became, a housekeeper in my own home. Robert covered his face with his hands. I never wanted you to feel that way. But I did feel that way, every day, for 3 years. Valerie, she's tough sometimes, but she's not a bad person. Robert, do you know how much your mother invested in that house? He swallowed. The deed says $1,368,000. Exactly. Do you know where that money came from? From the sale of the Queen's house. From the sale of the house where your father and I lived for 42 years, where we raised you, where we celebrated every one of your birthdays, where your father died in my bed, holding my hand. My voice cracked. I sold my memories, Robert. I sold the last piece of your father I had left, and I did it for you. Robert started to cry. Thick tears fell onto his hands. Mum, do you know how much you were paying a month? $480. And do you know what the actual mortgage payment was? Silence. $1,400. I put in the other $920 every month from my $1,600 pension. Do you know what that means? He looked up, confused. It means that after paying my share of the house, I had $680 left a month for all my expenses. Clothes, medicine, transportation, anything personal. $680, while Valerie spent $300 on a single bottle of wine. Robert turned pale. No, I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed I was fine, that I was happy, that taking care of your children and cleaning your house was enough purpose for me. Mum, I stood up and went to my purse. I took out the hardback notebook. I put it on the coffee table. Open it. With trembling hands, Robert opened the notebook and started reading. Page after page of pasted receipts, proof of transfers, notes in my handwriting, refrigerator, $1,880, washer and dryer, $2,450, complete living room set, $3,200, main bathroom remodel, $6,500, living room TV, $2,200. His face lost all color as he turned the pages. My God. Keep reading. He reached the final pages, the monthly calculations, 36 months of contributions, the final total. Over $1,300,000, he whispered. And that's not counting, I added coldly, the 3 daily meals I cooked, the cleaning, the childcare, the laundry, the ironing. If we put a price on all that work at a live-in housekeeper's rate, it's approximately another $40,000. Robert closed the notebook. He was trembling. I don't have $1,300,000 to pay you. I know. I don't even have $200,000 in savings. I also know. So what do you want? The house? Are you going to kick us out? And there it was, the $1,000,000 question. I took a deep breath. I want, I said slowly, for you to understand what you lost. That it wasn't just a house. It wasn't just furniture or money. You lost your mother. You lost me. I didn't lose you. You're here. When was the last time you asked me how I was, how I slept, if my back hurt from all the cleaning, if I missed your father, if I felt lonely? Silence. When was the last time you hugged me without it being in passing, that you sat down with me for coffee, that you truly looked me in the eye? More silence. I became a service, Robert, not your mother, and you let it happen. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, but I'm sorry doesn't bring back 3 years of my life. It doesn't bring back my dignity. I then took the USB stick from my pocket. I put it on the table next to the notebook. What is that? He asked, wiping his tears. Listen to it when you get home, but do it alone. Valerie cannot be present. Why? Because if you listen to it together, you're going to end up divorcing tonight. And even though your wife made my life miserable, your children don't deserve a broken home. Robert grabbed the USB stick as if it were a bomb. Mum, what's on here? The truth. 17 recordings of conversations where Valerie talks about me when she thinks I can't hear, where she plans how to get rid of me, where she makes fun of me with her friends. I watched his face crumple. Listen to all of it, and then you decide if you want to meet tomorrow at the notary's with your wife present, or if you prefer the two of us to talk first. He stood up, swaying a little. He grabbed the USB stick and the notebook. Mum, Monday at 10 o'clock sharp, Robert. At Notary Public Harrison's office. You decide who comes with you. He walked toward the door. He stopped with his hand on the doorknob. Is there anything I can do to fix this? Yes, I said. You can learn, you can change, and you can teach your children that older people are not furniture, that your mother was not a servant, that love and respect are not optional in a family. He left without saying anything else. Linda sat next to me and hugged me while I cried. Did you do the right thing? She asked softly. I don't know, but I did what was necessary. That afternoon, Ethan came to Linda's house alone. He rang the doorbell, and when I opened it, he threw himself into my arms, crying. Grandma, I miss you so much. I hugged him tight, inhaling the smell of his hair. My grandson, my adored grandson, who was not to blame for any of this. I miss you too, my love. Why did you leave? I knelt down to his level. Because sometimes, when someone treats you badly for a long time, you have to walk away and remind them that you are important. But we didn't treat you badly. I know, my darling. You love me, but your parents forgot how to treat me well. Dad is very sad and Mum won't stop crying. I know. Are you coming back? I looked into his eyes, those 9-year-old eyes full of confusion and innocence. I don't know, Ethan, but I do know that I love you and none of this is your fault. Do you understand me? He nodded, wiping his tears with the cuff of his sweater. We spent 2 hours together. We ate cookies. I read him a story. We played dominoes like we used to. When Robert came to pick him up, my son's face was devastated. Did you listen to it? I asked from the doorway. He nodded without speaking. All of it? He nodded again. Then I'll see you tomorrow. That night I didn't sleep well, because I knew the next day would define everything. Because tomorrow, in that notary's office, they would decide not only the fate of a house, they would decide whether a broken family could heal, or if some fractures are too deep to mend. On Monday, at 9:30 in the morning, I arrived at Notary Public Harrison's office. Mariah accompanied me, with her leather briefcase full of documents. She looked like a lawyer from a movie. Black business suit, heels, hair tied back in a perfect bun. Ready, Aunt? She asked as we climbed the stairs of the colonial building in the heart of Queens. Ready. Mr. Har- Mr. Harrison greeted us in his office with high ceilings and antique mahogany furniture. It smelled of old books and coffee. Mrs. B, he greeted me with a fatherly hug. I'm so sorry things came to this. Me too, my friend. But here we are. We sat down. The clock showed 9:47. At 9:52, we heard steps on the stairs. The door opened. Robert entered first. He was wearing a grey suit, dark tie, as if he were going to a funeral. His eyes were sunken, red from lack of sleep. And behind him came Valerie. But not the usual confident, arrogant Valerie. This Valerie was wearing a conservative navy blue dress, no cleavage, no stilettos, flats, minimal makeup, her hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She looked like a scolded child. She saw me and immediately looked away. Interesting. Good morning, Robert said in a hoarse voice. Good morning, I replied. They sat on the other side of the table, Mr. Harrison at the head. Mariah took documents out of her briefcase with precise, professional movements. Well, Mr. Harrison began, putting on his glasses. We are here to resolve a situation of property and occupancy. Ms. Beatrice Miller is the legal owner of the residence located at— We know, Valerie interrupted. Her voice sounded strained. We already know everything. Mariah raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? Do you know that my client has invested $1,368,000 in that property? Yes. And that you, technically, have been living without a lease agreement for 3 years? Valerie clenched her fists on her lap. Yes. And that my client has the legal right to request immediate eviction, collect back rent, and sue for emotional distress. That's when Valerie looked up. Her eyes were shining with held-back tears. Yes, we know. We know everything. The silence that followed was dense. Robert cleared his throat. Mum, I listened to the recordings. All of them? All of them. It took me 4 hours, and each one destroyed me a little more. Valerie closed her eyes. I didn't know, Robert continued, looking directly at me. I had no idea about the things Valerie was saying about you behind your back. Robert, Valerie murmured. No, he cut her off, with a harshness I had never heard from him. You're not going to minimize this, not now. He turned back to me. Mum, I heard how she talked about you with her friends, how she mocked you, how she planned. He ran his hands over his face. How she planned to convince me to send you to a senior community when you were no longer useful. Valerie sobbed. No, I didn't mean that. It was frustration. I didn't mean— You didn't mean it? Robert's voice rose. There's a recording from October where you tell your sister, verbatim, as soon as the old lady gets sick or starts with dementia, we'll send her to a cheap assisted living facility and keep the house completely. You didn't mean that either. Valerie's face crumpled. Mariah, smelling blood in the water, took out her laptop. Do you want to listen to the recordings here, in the presence of the notary public? I have certified copies. No, Valerie said quickly. It's not necessary. Oh, I think it is, Mariah said with a shark-like smile. Because my client not only has recording, she also has testimonies from neighbors about the treatment she received, photos of humiliating messages, and a detailed record of psychological abuse and financial exploitation. Valerie turned completely pale. Financial exploitation, Mariah repeated, is a crime, especially when it involves seniors. We could not only win the house, Miss Ruiz. We could take this to the criminal court. No, Valerie stood up abruptly. Please, it's not necessary. I'll do anything. Sit down, Robert ordered. Valerie collapsed back into the chair, trembling. Mr. Harrison, who had been silently observing everything, spoke in a grave voice. Miss Valerie, I've known Mrs. Miller for 30 years. She's a woman of honor, and you, forgive my frankness, treated her like trash. Valerie buried her face in her hands. I know, she whimpered. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you sorry? I finally asked. My voice came out colder than I expected. Are you sorry you humiliated me? Or are you sorry you got caught? She looked up. Mascara was running down her cheeks. I'm sorry for both. I'm sorry I was cruel. I'm sorry I treated you like a servant. And I'm sorry to have been exposed like this, because it forced me to see the monster I became. That surprised me. I expected excuses, justifications, not self-criticism. Valerie continued, wiping her tears with trembling hands. I grew up poor, Mrs. Miller. Very poor. My mum worked as a domestic helper her whole life, and when I managed to get out of that poverty, when I got my career and my position, I think I became exactly what I hated the most, the bosses who treated my mother badly. And the worst part is I did it to you, to the woman who helped us get a house, who took care of my kids, who gave me a home. I was the worst version of myself with you. Robert looked at her with a mix of pain and disappointment. Why? He asked. Why did you treat her like that when you knew how your own mother felt? Because I was afraid, Valerie admitted through sobs. Afraid the kids would love you more. Afraid Robert would see that you were a better mother, a better cook, better at everything. Afraid of looking like the useless daughter-in-law who needs her mother-in-law to keep her house running. She closed her eyes. So I treated you badly to feel superior, to remind myself that I was the owner of the house, the one in charge, the successful one. And you were just the mother-in-law living with us. But it wasn't my house. It was your house, the one you paid for, the one you built. And I was so stupid, so blind, so cruel, that I didn't see it until you left. Mariah looked at me, waiting for my signal. I knew she wanted to destroy Valerie legally. She had all the tools to do it. But something in Valerie's confession, in her broken voice, made me stop. Does your mother know how you treated me? I asked. Valerie shook her head. If she finds out, she'll disown me. She adores grandmothers. She always told me, treat your mother-in-law how you would want your mother to be treated. Wise advice, I said coldly. Too bad you didn't listen to it. I know. Mr. Harrison drummed his fingers on his desk. All right. We need to resolve the practical situation. Ms. Miller has 3 legal options. Mariah spread documents on the table. Option 1. Immediate eviction. You have 30 days to vacate the property. Ms. Miller recovers her house. Valerie turned pale. Option 2. Full purchase. You pay Ms. Miller $1,368,000 within a period of no more than 90 days. The deed is transferred. The house becomes legally yours. Robert shook his head. We don't have that money, nowhere near it. Option 3, Mariah said, and looked at me. This was my idea, the one we had discussed. Property division and cohabitation agreement. What does that mean? Robert asked. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. It means we divide the house legally. I keep 60% of the property. You keep 40%, registered with the notary and completely legal. But, Valerie frowned, confused. 60-40? That means... It means the house will still be more in my name than yours, but you will have something. You won't be homeless. And where would you live? Robert asked. I'm not coming back to that house, I said firmly. I'm staying where I am. but my 60% has conditions. Mariah unfolded another document. Ms. Miller will rent her percentage of the house to a family she personally selects. Tenants who will live in the house with you. You will share common areas. They will pay a monthly rent of $850 that will go directly to Ms. Miller. Valerie's eyes widened. You want us to live with strangers? I want you to learn what it feels like to share your space with someone you didn't choose, I replied. I want you to understand the discomfort, the lack of privacy, having to be polite to people who are in your house. Robert understood immediately. Like how you felt with us. Exactly. And the other condition? He asked. Family therapy, I said. Robert, you and I will go to therapy once a week for 6 months. I'll pay for the first 10 sessions. You pay for the rest, without Valerie. Just the two of us. My son had tears in his eyes. You would do that? After everything, you still want to fix our relationship? You are my son, I said with a trembling voice. You made terrible mistakes. You failed me. But you are my son, and I'm not going to give up on you without trying. Robert stood up, walked around the table, and knelt in front of me. Forgive me, Mom. Please forgive me. I hugged him and cried with him. Valerie watched from her chair, devastated. And me? She asked in a small voice. Is there anything I can do to earn your forgiveness? I looked directly at her. You can start by treating the tenants I put in your house well. You can start by valuing what you have. And you can start by teaching my grandchildren that respect is not optional. She nodded, wiping her tears. I will. I promise. Mr. Harrison prepared the documents, property division 60/40, lease agreement for my portion, protection clauses, all legal, all sealed. When we left that office 2 hours later, I was free. And them? They had a lesson that would last for years. Because sometimes justice isn't about destroying. Sometimes it's about making you live with the consequences of your actions every single day. 2 weeks after that meeting at the notary's, I was sitting at a coffee shop in Queens with Teresa Green, a 52-year-old elementary school teacher and widow. She had 2 children, Michael, 14, and Andrea, 11. She had been looking for a home for 3 years after her husband died in a car accident, and she had to sell their apartment to pay medical debts. Ms. Miller, Teresa said with hopeful eyes, are you sure you want to rent part of your house to us? With 2 teenagers, we make a lot of noise. I am completely sure, I replied, sipping my coffee. And call me Beatrice, please. I explained the situation. Everything. I didn't lie or omit details. Teresa needed to know what she was getting into. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. So, she finally said, you want my family and me to be your living lesson for your son and daughter-in-law? I want, I corrected, you to have a decent home. And yes, incidentally, for my family to learn empathy. Teresa smiled. Sounds fair. When can we move in? A week later, on April 1st, the moving truck arrived at Circuit Judge's 847. I went to supervise. It was my right as a co-owner. Valerie opened the door. Seeing me, her face went through 10 different emotions, but she forced a smile. Mother-in-law, please come in. Beatrice, I corrected. Call me Beatrice. Beatrice, she repeated, swallowing hard. Behind me came Teresa, Michael, and Andrea. The children looked at the house with wide eyes. It's huge, Andrea murmured. It's nice, Michael agreed. Robert appeared from the kitchen. He looked better than he did at the notary's, but he still carried guilt in his eyes. Mum, he greeted me. Then he looked at Teresa. You must be Ms. Green. Teresa is fine, she said. extending her hand. Thank you for having us. We didn't have a choice, Valerie muttered so quietly it was barely audible. Almost. I stared at her. She looked down. I'm sorry. That was an unnecessary comment. Welcome to the house. I showed them the rooms that were theirs, according to the agreement. A large bedroom for Teresa, a smaller one for Michael, and Andrea would share with Sophia, by the girl's own decision. Can I really share with someone? Sophia had said when we suggested it. I always wanted a sister. The kitchen, living room, and dining room would be shared spaces. That's where things got interesting. That first night, Teresa made dinner, chicken enchiladas with green sauce. The smell filled the house. Valerie came downstairs looking confused. What is that smell? Dinner, Teresa said cheerfully. I made extra in case you'd like to join us. I saw Valerie's face. That look of this is my kitchen, of I didn't invite you to cook here. But she bit her tongue, because she knew it wasn't just her kitchen anymore. Thank you, she said with effort. It smells delicious. They all ate together, Robert, Valerie, Ethan, Sophia, Teresa, Michael, and Andrea. A full table of strangers learning to coexist. Ethan and Michael connected over video games. Sophia and Andrea became inseparable in 30 minutes. Children don't have the prejudices of adults. But Valerie quietly picked at her food, uncomfortable at her own table. And I, sitting at Linda's house 3 miles away, imagined the scene with a smile. Weeks passed. Robert and I started therapy. The first day was devastating. We both cried through the entire session. I let her get lost, he told me. I let our bond break because it was easier to keep the peace with Valerie than to defend you. And I let it happen, I admitted, because I was afraid of being alone. I was afraid that if I protested, they would kick me out and I would have nowhere to go. The therapist, Dr. Monroe, looked at us with compassion. Fear makes us allow intolerable things, she said. But you two still have a chance to rebuild. And slowly, session after session, we started to do it. Robert started calling me, not just for house matters or the agreement. He called to ask me how I was, what I had eaten, if I had slept well. Simple things he hadn't done in 3 years. One day he came to Linda's house with flowers. Just because, he said. Because you're my mum and I love you. I cried, hugging those flowers ours all afternoon. Meanwhile, in the Fairfield house, the cohabitation created revealing situations. Teresa told me everything in our weekly calls. Yesterday, Valerie got mad because Michael used too much hot water in his shower, Teresa told me, laughing. I politely reminded her that we pay our rent on time and have the right to hot water. She turned red, but didn't say anything else. And Robert? Robert is kind. He helps. On Saturday, he played basketball with Michael and Ethan in the yard. I think he's learning. There were also beautiful moments. Andrea was having trouble with math. Valerie, who was an engineer by training, helped her with her homework without anyone asking. Thank you, Ms. Valerie, Andrea had said with a smile. And Valerie, Teresa told me, cried afterward, because for the first time in months, someone had sincerely thanked her for something. The children, of course, were the easy part of this whole equation. Sophia had a new best friend. Ethan had an older brother who taught him tricks on his bike. And both of them, in their childish innocence, were rebuilding bridges that the adults had burned. One Sunday, a month after the move, Robert invited me to lunch. At the house, he said. Teresa is making mole. She says it's your favorite. I hesitated. Mum, Robert pleaded, please, the kids miss you. And I need you to see that I'm trying. I went. I entered that house with my heart pounding. I hadn't been there since the night I left. Everything looked the same, but different. There were Andrea's drawings on the fridge, Michael's bike on the porch, voices, laughter, life. "Grandma!" Sophia ran to hug me. "You came!" Ethan hugged me too, taller than I remembered. "I missed you, Grandma." Teresa welcomed me with a hug. "Come in, Beatrice. Your house, your table." Valerie was in the kitchen. She saw me and nervously wiped her hands on her apron. "Beatrice," she said, "thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." We looked at each other. Two women who had been at war. Two women who were not yet friends, but were learning to coexist. "The mole smells delicious," I said. "Teresa taught me her recipe," Valerie admitted. "It's better than mine." It was the first time I had heard her admit that someone did something better than her. We all sat down to eat, 7 people around a table. Michael told a joke. Andrea sang a song she learned at school. Ethan showed off his report card. Sophia showed a drawing she made of her new big family. Everyone was in the drawing. Teresa, her kids, Robert, Valerie, the children, and me in the center, with a crown drawn on my head. "You're the Grandma Queen," Sophia explained, "because you made us all be together." I broke down. I cried in front of everyone. Robert grabbed my hand. "Thank you, Mum, for not giving up on us." "Thank you," I whispered, "for finally seeing me again." After lunch, Valerie asked to speak to me alone. We went out to the small backyard, the same one where I used to hang the clothes. "Beatrice," she began with a trembling voice, "I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know I hurt you in unforgivable ways. But I want you to know that I am in therapy, individual therapy, working on my insecurities, my need for control, everything." "I'm glad to hear that," I said sincerely. "Teresa is teaching me a lot," she continued, "about humility, about gratitude. She lost her husband. She lost her home. And yet she smiles every day. She's grateful for what she has. And I had everything. And I never stopped complaining." She wiped away a tear. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to let me try to be better, to see that I'm trying." I looked at her. This woman who had made me invisible, who planned to get rid of me, who humiliated me for 3 years. But I also saw a broken woman trying to put herself back together. "Forgiveness," I told her, "is not asked for. It is earned, with actions, with time, with real change." "I know. And I'm willing to see if you can achieve it." Her face lit up with hope. "Really, Tux? Really, but Valerie, if you ever treat anyone in that house badly again, if you ever go back to being the cruel person you were with me, this agreement is over. Understood?" Understood. 6 months later, in October, things had changed drastically. Robert and I had a rebuilt relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, honest. We saw each other twice a week. We talked on the phone. He truly asked for my opinion, not just out of courtesy. Valerie had improved, a lot. She was still proud, but she had learned to restrain herself, to be grateful, to share. One day she called me. "Beatrice, could we get a coffee, just the two of us?" I accepted, curious. We met at a neutral Starbucks. "I want to offer you something," Valerie said, pulling papers from her bag. "I've been saving and I talked to the bank. I can get a loan. I want to buy your 60% of the house from you in 5 years, with monthly payments of $2,300. It's all calculated here, with fair interest." I stayed silent, reading. "Why?" I asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. "It's your house, your investment, your sacrifice, and we've been living off your generosity for too long. I thought you wanted to keep the house for free, I said with an ironic smile. The Valerie of a year ago did, she admitted. Today's Valerie wants to earn things, wants to pay what she owes, wants to sleep without guilt. I looked at the numbers. It was a fair offer, very fair. And Teresa and her kids? We offered them to stay as our official tenants if you agree to sell. With a real contract, fair rent. They accepted. The kids are inseparable. And Teresa became my friend, my external conscience. I smiled. All right, I said. I accept. Valerie exhaled, relieved. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, for not destroying us when you could have. I don't gain anything by destroying you, Valerie. I gain by seeing my family heal. Today, a year and 3 months after that night when I left with my suitcase, I am sitting in my small rented apartment in downtown Queens. I am 69 years old. I teach knitting classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the community center. I go to therapy once a month for myself. I go for walks with Linda every morning. Robert comes to visit me every Sunday. Sometimes he brings the children. Sometimes he comes alone and we cook together like when he was a boy. Valerie texts me occasionally. Photos of the children, recipes she tried, small gestures that show she is trying. Teresa and I are close friends. Her children call me Aunt B. And the $850 in rent I receive every month, plus the $2,300 from Valerie's payment plan, allow me to live with dignity, with independence, with peace. Did I get my family back? Not entirely. Some wounds left permanent scars. But I got something more important back. I got myself back. I recovered my name, my voice, my right to be treated with respect. And I learned that sometimes the most important love is not the one you give, it's the one you give to yourself. Last week, Sophia gave me a new drawing. It was me, standing in front of a house, with a suitcase in my hand and a smile on my face. Underneath, she wrote in uneven letters, "My Grandma Beatrice, the bravest woman I know, because she knew how to leave when she needed to, and come back when she was ready." I have it framed in my living room, because that 7-year-old girl understood what many adults never understand. That staying where you are hurt is not love, it's habit. And breaking that habit, even if it hurts, even if it scares you, even if it makes you feel selfish, is the most loving act you can do for yourself. Today, I sleep peacefully, in my bed, in my space, in my life. And when I look in the mirror, I finally see what I was looking for 3 years. A visible woman, a valuable woman, a free woman. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm in Central Park with Ethan and Sophia. We bought soft-serve ice cream and sat under a tree. "Grandma," says Ethan, now 11 years old and with a voice that is starting to change. "Do you regret leaving that night?" "Never," I answer without hesitation. "Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Because leaving saved me. It reminded me who I was before I became invisible." Sophia, with ice cream on her nose, asks, "And are you happy now?" I hold her on my lap, even though she's big. I am happy now, because I am where I choose to be, not where I am tolerated. Robert appears with coffee for me. He sits next to me. "The kids asked me if we can do this every Sunday," he says. "Park, ice cream, time with Grandma." I would love that. My son smiles. That sincere smile I hadn't seen for years. "Mum, I know I say it a lot, but thank you for not giving up on us, for teaching us the hardest lesson we needed." "You're welcome, son. Do you know what my therapist told me last week?" "What?" "That what you did wasn't revenge, It was restorative justice, because you made us face the consequences without destroying us. You gave us the opportunity to change. Your therapist is wise. We stay there, under that tree, watching the children run. And I think of all the women who wrote to me after my Facebook post, the ones who found the courage to leave, the ones who set boundaries, the ones who recovered their dignity. And I understand that my story was never just mine, it was all of ours, the invisible ones, the exploited ones, the ones who gave everything, hoping for crumbs of respect in return. Because true wealth is not in what you possess, it's in what you don't allow them to take from you. And I, Beatrice Socorro Miller, widow of Torres, 69 years old, recovered my soul. And no one will ever steal that from me again. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on self-worth, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, leave me your comment. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you ever had to choose between staying where you're hurt or leaving to save yourself, give it a like if this story reminded you that it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. And subscribe to the channel, because here we will continue to share real-life stories of brave men and women who chose to respect themselves. Because at the end of the day, the most important lesson is this: the love that doesn't include respect is not love, it's habit. And habits that hurt you are meant to be broken.